Good morning. It's a little bit later this morning, but I was waiting for the light to be better. I'm swiftly coming to the time of the year where I'm going to have to figure out lighting in the morning, where it's going to be dark. And since right now my morning daily devotional area is right by the window, and I don't mind sitting in the dark, videoing daily devotions in the dark doesn't work. You know. Oh, I slept wrong, and my back on the right side is not happy with me. Ugh. Anybody ever had that? Okay, we're still on the card Pono Pono, Immeasurable Power of the Heartway. I love this. So, the divine dwells in your heart as a healing power and wisdom, which tenderly alleviates suffering, liberating the body, mind, and soul. This is the immeasurable power of the Heartway. The practice of the Heartway is not something that you can approach through the mind. The mind will resist because it asks for us to take unconditional responsibility for everything we encounter, whether it be in our lives or out in the world, even if those situations seem to have nothing whatsoever to do with us. The moment something comes into our awareness, we are responsible for it. The mind can rebel at this and say it is unfair or unduly burdensome or shameful to think that way. That is because the mind confuses responsibility with guilt and giving with deficit. The heart, though, is joyful in the prospect of spiritual responsibility because it understands that it offers the empowerment to make a difference and that healing one helps to heal all. So, the prayer that goes with today, step 2. So yesterday is I'm responsible for the situation. And step 2 is asking for forgiveness. So it says, I am responsible for this situation. I feel sorry for this. Let your heart be in compassion as you feel the emotion evoked of what you're saying. So step 1, I'm sorry. Saying aloud, I am responsible for the situation. Step 2 is today, and that's asking for forgiveness. Feel the remorse as you connect with step 1, as you ask to be forgiven. Those of you who are sensitive to energy may feel or sense a release of energy taking place. Forgiveness is always release. Always. Ownership of your behaviors, ownership of who you are and what you do, and your ownership of yourself in situations, then also needs to lead to forgiving yourself, forgiving the people around you, Forgiving is the act of releasing fear, okay? That's really the big thing. So there are 2 emotions in the universe. There's love and there's fear, right? Ownership is love. You are addressing the situation with love. And guilt holds fear. So if you're owning something, I own my responsibilities, I own the situation, I own my participation in this dialogue, right? Forgiveness releases the fear. It releases the fear in the situation. It releases the fear in your heart. It releases any pent up stuff that doesn't belong, right? That's why this card is called Immeasurable Power of the Heartway, because you can't measure ownership of love and you can't measure how much fear you're going to let go. When you're afraid in any situation, forgive, and it will start that release of that fear. Fear can be crippling. And I say that because I too have been in a place of fear many times in my life. I feel like half of my childhood was one ball of angst and anxiety and terror. Every time something like that comes up, I have to, in that moment, forgive myself and forgive the people that were around me. Okay? I talked about this before in daily devotions from years past, but I had a horrible relationship with my biological mother, and it has and will never be better. It just is. It's just bad. And that's okay. I'm okay with that because her path is not my path and my path is not her path. Okay? She is her own individual spiritual entity, and that spiritual entity and I do not need to intersect, and that's okay. But I had years and years and years and years of therapy and work and spirit work with self to release. And every once in a while, I still have something that triggers that anxiety. It triggers that knot in my chest. It triggers that place of not safe. And feeling not safe when you're a child and then growing up and still having those triggered moments is a real thing. That's not something that just goes away. You can't just go to therapy for 3 or 4 years and then make that go away. This is a lifelong thing. I will probably struggle with this my entire life. And I'm okay with that because at least now I'm in a place where I can recognize this card brought up a very, very specific memory. I had written a poem, and I'm pretty sure I was in high school. It might have been in junior high. And I wrote the poem, and I took it to my mother to edit, and she basically told me that it was horrible. And I walked away feeling very anxious and hurt and upset about it. And it wasn't the first time that I'd brought her poetry. I'd brought her poetry on other things, and she had liked it. So I had thought, oh, well, this is a safe thing that I can bring my mother and I'll get positive reinforcement, right? I mean, you don't as a child think that in a logical way. You're just like, oh, this was something mom and I could like actually get along about. When I was reading that this morning, I was like, I have come to a new memory, not a new memory, but something that bubbled up when I read that this morning, which means I need to sit with that. I need to own my own feelings. I need to own my own anxiety about it. I need to own how uncomfortable and disappointed I was. I also need to own that I'm working on a manuscript, and I've been writing a little bit of poetry to go at the beginning of each one of the chapters, and I've been having some second guessing going on, and I'm recognizing now that second guessing isn't really coming from my good heart place. It's coming from my fear. So not only do I need to own my behavior, own my reactions, own what happened, acknowledge the memory, but I also need to forgive, and I need to forgive myself, and I need to forgive her and her path that has nothing to do with my path now, and release it and let it go. There are 2 more steps, and we're going to go over step 3 and step 4 tomorrow, but it's really interesting that if you think about the things that bubble up, memories that bubble up when you're struggling with something, first thing is to acknowledge, own, take ownership of that memory, acknowledge the memory, allow that memory to have a place, and then forgive. release the fear. And it's not easy. It's not easy because all of the emotions that come up with fear could be anger, resentment, frustration, anxiety. All those things bubble up. And that's part of working through the emotional trauma and baggage from memories. And we have memories for a reason. If we're able to do that work, ironically, it starts to create a ripple pattern in your energy field, and it ripples out to where that memory is being held in your field and ripple back. And if you can do a release, you can start feeling lighter. And every memory has layers. That very same memory about that very same issue has come up so many times in the last 2 or 3 months. Not that and not always that memory, but other memories of other things that I have written, that when I was a child I would share my writing, or I would seek acceptance for writing, or I would be told it was no longer, there were points, there are memories that I have where it was no longer me trying to write creatively, but then I would be encouraged to write almost as a form of punishment. So emotional abuse can have long-lasting effects in somebody's life. And working through all of that, I've been working through pretty much everything that has created any kind of trauma around writing, because I'm trying to write a manuscript that I want to write. I want it to be joyful. I want it to be happy. I want it to be something that's communicative and informative and sharing in a positive way. But to do that, I have to work through my stuff. I have to acknowledge. I have to own my own behavior. I have to own my trauma, and I have to forgive. I have to forgive and release the fear, or I'm not going to get anywhere. So that's today's daily devotional. I'm working on that because I have website stuff to do today and manuscript stuff to do today. I have a meeting with somebody today. I may or may not be meeting with the head of the massage school today. I'll be contacting her because she'll be in town, and we'll be looking at the schedule for teaching and working. And that means yesterday I didn't get any art done. Oh my God, yesterday was so long. I had 2 doctor's appointments, and I drove around town looking for one thing, which I never did find the one thing. And I came home and I did a really nice Epsom salt bath, and I got done with my bath and I was just exhausted. I just sat there in my bed for 2 hours scrolling and rolled over and went to sleep, and I was out till 7 o'clock this morning, like just tired, just exhausted. So I'm gonna try really hard to listen to my body and not push too hard. So today's gonna be kind of sedentary stuff. I do have a lot of sewing to do. I do have videos to edit. I have a lot to do, but I think I have just a little bit of footage left to shoot and one little like conclusion to do, and then I can edit a vlog that'll be out middle of September. And I have enough footage to do probably the beginning of another vlog. So I have a lot of footage that I need to go through and like look at and edit, and that's going to be a lot of sitting in front of the computer stuff. So anyway, I hope you all have a beautiful day. May your day be blessed. May your day be full of joy and love. And try a little bit of forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others. Release the fear. Have a blessed day, and I will see you tomorrow in prayer. Bye-bye.